We're going to talk injuries in a bit more depth in a little while, but one injury that happened before he even got on the field was that to Tyrod Taylor. And apparently, according to Anthony Lynn, he is still the starting quarterback of the Chargers. Maybe a decision or an announcement that was as weird a decision as not going for it on 4th and 1. But Justin Herbert comes out. I think he was the guy that a lot of us looked at from the first round, other than Jordan Love, and thought, that's the rawest talent, maybe the guy that's going to redshirt the longest. And he came in and looked really good against the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, I thought he played really well, and I've been a huge critic of his at Oregon for a number of reasons. I know Kalen did a really interesting story with his family and some of his coaches and stuff last season in the run-up to the draft. But, I watched almost every throw that he made at Oregon because I'm sad. And also because, there was a lot of talk that the Dolphins would be drafting him. And I spoke to a number of people. I spoke to Scott McLuhan, who was working for one of the teams ahead of the draft. And he gave me a really interesting insight into Herbert and his mindset, and talked to some people up at Oregon. And he, even if you watch Hard Knocks, that, it was clear that the coaching staff really liked him, but he was very quiet. And that was something that, he was a kid who was brought up in Corvallis, had never really left. And people were worried about what would happen if he got out of Corvallis and, into a place like Miami, into a place like New York, one of those, big cities, and the effect that would have. But I thought he was really impressive. I mean, he took a lot of what the defense gave him, certainly in the first half. He made a couple of absolutely fantastic throws. There was one to Keenan Allen down the seam in the third quarter, I think, that was just an absolute wow throw. But for me, I think the biggest moment, and probably the biggest moment for the team, was when he took on the Chiefs linebacker down on the sideline and got absolutely clobbered. And he was straight up to his feet. And, and the Chiefs linebacker, whose name completely escapes me, it took him 5 or 6 seconds to get up. And for a team on the sideline, that's the sort of thing that makes you think, okay, there's something about this kid. Yeah, he can throw. Yeah, he's this, that, and the other. But to be fearless, which he was both as a passer, but also taking on defenders, I thought that said an awful lot about Justin Herbert. And I was very impressed with what he did.
It was it was Damian Wilson, and if you haven't read about it since, Damian Wilson knocked himself clean out during that challenge. I had to go out of the game because of it.
Did he come? I don't think he even returned. Did he return to the game? Yeah.
Had to go into protocol and then never came back in.
It's crazy.
Wow.
I have a lot to say about Justin Herbert. I'm writing about it this week, so
Kaylin loves Justin Herbert the way Matt likes old white head coaches.
I'm a big fan.
Not quite that one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan about Justin Herbert, but I do think it's really interesting, like the decision facing Anthony Lynn, that he's already said. Well, the thing I'll point out first is that he's been very careful with how he says this. He says if Tyrod Taylor is 100% healthy, he's our guy. So my prediction for this upcoming Panthers game is, we don't know a lot about what happened to Tyrod. He was on their injury report the Friday before the game. He practiced fully, but he was on the injury report with a rib injury. So there's something that he had an underlying rib injury, and then he had some reaction to the painkillers for the game on Sunday. So he originally was supposed to be able to play through that rib injury, which is why he was getting the injection in the first place. But I just have a feeling he's not going to be 100% healthy, because now they don't have a reason to push him through this injury to get him back on the field. They have a very capable backup quarterback in Justin Herbert. And that's exactly what Anthony Lynn said. He said, because I joined their press conference yesterday and I kind of pushed him on, why is Tyrod still your starter? Can you explain that a little bit more? Because you're going to have a lot of fans that are wondering why this rookie who threw for 311 yards, completed 66% of his passes, 14 yards per catch. Like, come on, they're going to be wondering why you're going with Tyrod, who, if you look at his stats from week 1 against the Bengals, we're really nowhere near what Justin Herbert did against the Super Bowl champions. So I asked him to elaborate on that a little bit further. And he basically said that, yes, Justin came in and gave us a chance to win, but he was very specific to point out that they did not win the game. So I feel like if they had actually won, we might hear something different from Anthony Lynn. But he said he's still a rookie. He's a backup for a reason. He has a lot he needs to learn about this game. Tyrod is a veteran. I've had him before. I know what to expect from him, and I know what he's going to get done. And he said, if Tyrod can't go, I'm perfectly content with Justin. I know we can win with either quarterback. And then when I press him a little bit further about what, is there a benefit? Because the biggest question I have is there a benefit to putting your rookie back on the bench after he proved he can hang at the NFL level. Because obviously there's a huge benefit to not starting him right away. You want to make sure he can make that transition, that he can pick up. As we saw in Hard Knocks, he was having trouble calling the plays, right? So you want to make sure he can make that transition. But then I was questioning, like, well, is there a point now? Like, is there still a benefit of sitting him after he's already played? And he said, yeah, there is. There's still a lot that he can learn. And he can learn now that he has the perspective of having played, he can learn by watching Tyrod. And then he also said, which I thought was interesting, he said, Tyrod hasn't done anything to lose his job. It wasn't his fault he wasn't on the field yesterday, which, yeah, that's true. But that's also what happens in the NFL and what's already happened to Tyrod in Cleveland when Baker came on. And I think the only difference here is that Baker won. And then
I think the other difference here is that Tyrod is very obviously Anthony Lynn's guy. You know, he mentions he's worked with him previously, and I think he would have been the one who driven through that signing. And I do think there is an element of that at play here. I mean, I thought his comments actually on Herbert were poor. I mean, you know, the suggestion that it was outrageous that he hadn't won the game when, let's be honest, I really like Anthony
Coach,
Lynn.
it's your fault, buddy.
You know, literally
Nobody else to blame.
You knocked over on 4th and 1 thought, well, you basically handed Kansas City the game. And also, you were talking about a team who definitely shouldn't have won against the Bengals. Should know. Incredible recovery from Randy Bullock after tearing his calf muscle in that game.
Amazing, wasn't it? I mean,
to play on Thursday night.
Straight off the boat in week 1.
A guy misses a chip shot field goal for you to win in week 1 against the worst team in football last year, one of the worst teams in football. That is where the charges were going into this game. You're playing the Super Bowl champions who have just absolutely blown Houston off the field in week 1, and you should win the game. Like, you're ahead all the way through the game. So I think the idea that we didn't win the game as if there was an expectation going into it that you would win the game with Tyrod is insane. I mean, nobody thought that the Chargers would be close in that game, and Justin Herbert was a big reason that they were close.